So today, Pulkit and I will be going through a mock customer demo. So I'll be acting as the customer. Pulkit will be, of course, the solutions architect. And today we'll be taking a look at Snowflake, which is a very popular data warehousing tool. And Pulkit will be demoing this to me.
Right. Let's start. Absolutely. I would be acting as a Snowflake Solutions Architect, and Mohammed, you are going to act as a customer, right? I'm just going to start with, just a little bit of introduction, and I'm going to ask, how are you doing? And, then we are going to dive right into it. Right. So let's go. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Mohammed, hi. Nice to meet you. And first of all, thank you for giving me the time. My name is Pulkit. I'm a senior solutions architect, and today I'm going to talk to you about Snowflake and what it can do for your business. So before I go forward, I just wanted to validate my current understanding a little bit in terms of your requirements. So if I understood correctly, you are one of the biggest banks that is based in the US, and you are taking your first steps towards cloud migration of some of your biggest workloads, right? And currently, you are specifically facing a challenge about the data pipeline and the data warehousing capability for your bank. So currently, you have a couple of data warehouses on premise, but they're all managed by different teams. So it is very difficult to maintain standards and security across all of them. And what you want to do is you want to move to a cloud data platform that kind of centrally ensures that ingesting data, storing it, and exposing it to all of your various stakeholders is standardized and secure. Did I kind of capture your requirements correctly, or is there something else you want me to add?
Yeah, no. You got that on the dot there. It's we're just struggling with the management of all of our data warehouses, like you said. It's kind of all over the place. Different teams are managing it, and seeing it kind of from a bird's eye view can be pretty difficult. So we want to move to a central data platform solution.
Right. Sounds good. All right. So I'm going to give you a small demo of Snowflake and how does it work in action. But before that, let me just go over a 10,000 feet view of the Snowflake platform. And let me just give you a bit of information about, how easy it is to ingest, store, consume, and manage data in Snowflake, right? All right. I'm just going to share my screen. So we already did the introduction, so we can skip that. But before we talk about Snowflake, let's just take a couple of steps back and see, how the data warehousing and the data platforms have evolved over the past couple of decades. So, of course, initially in 80s and 90s, all we had was on-premise enterprise data warehouses, right? Where it was a setup which is quite similar to what you have right now. So companies have data warehouses on premise, and everything was maintained in-house and so on. Then along came data lake, Hadoop, which also ensured that not just structured data but unstructured and semi-structured data was also able to be stored in these data warehouses, and business insights could be derived from them. Then the first generation of the cloud data warehouse came. So they had a couple of benefits. For example, the infrastructure was all in the cloud, so you did not have to maintain it. But of course, they had their problems with, for example, specific data warehouses were made for specific type of storage of data, for example, structured, semi-structured, and so on. And now what Snowflake has done is, so it is the first data platform which is built for the cloud specifically. So Snowflake runs on AWS, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud seamlessly. And what it does is it can store all type of data, whether it is structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. The second key point where Snowflake really shines is that it is really made for all kind of users, right? So you typically have a lot of users in your company, for example, your data science team, data engineering team, which is kind of, make sure that all the data is brought onto the platform in a scalable way. And thirdly, you have the BAs, which are kind of, trying to analyze the data which is coming in and derive business insights from it. And with all of that, of course, you want to have fast responses to your business questions. And ideally, you would like to do it without learning any more skills. So this is just a small history of the data platforms. So how does Snowflake do it? So on the left-hand side, you see all the data sources, which are typically used in an enterprise company. For example, your DBs, enterprise applications like CRMs, like SAP, and so on. Third parties, you might have a website from where you are going to get data into it. You might have IoT devices. So this data typically comes in two ways. So one is ETL, for example, the batch loads at night from enterprise applications like CRMs, etc. And the second part is streaming, for example, from your website. So, and on the right-hand side, you see all the consumers of this. So like we talked about, you have various type of teams in your company, which ensure that you can derive business insights from your data, right? So Snowflake, what it does is it ensures that the ingestion and the consumption of data is seamless along with the storage of data while maintaining a very high level of security for the data. And of course, like we said, it can be deployed on all three major clouds, AWS, Google, and Microsoft. So that's obviously a big advantage. Right?
So, Pulkit, quick question: do I get to choose which cloud I want to go on to out of the three?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You can choose whichever cloud you are using in your company. So that's no problem at all. So Snowflake can
Awesome.
be deployed in whatever region you want to deploy it as well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Right. And one more thing which I want to talk about is, since you are a bank, so security is, of course, top of mind for you, and various kinds of security, authentication, access control, for example, which application can access your Snowflake. So for example, we do offer capabilities like IP whitelisting, RBAC, and so on. On top of that, we also offer data encryption, both in motion and at rest. And we are also certified by all the normal, let's say, data certification companies. So that's all in place, and I can provide you more information about that if you want. Right. So let's now go ahead and look at a small demo of how Snowflake works. So what we are going to do is, we are going to take a fictional example of a company called City Bike. It is actually a real company which is present in New York. So they are basically a ride sharing, they are basically a bike sharing company, right? So their bikes are present at various stations, and through an app, you can just unlock bike and you can leave it at whichever station you want, right? So what we have is, we have some data in S3 from this particular company. So the data has a lot of fields, which we are going to see, of course. But let me first give you an overview of how the Snowflake interface looks like. So when you log into Snowflake, this is what you would see. We have various tabs here, but we don't have that much time, so I'm not going to go into the detail of every tab. But typically what you are going to do is, if you want to ingest data, if you want to work on data, typically what you are going to do, you are going to create a worksheet. And I've already created a worksheet for you, so we don't have to create it once again. And if you go into this worksheet, you'll see that there is a place here where you can just write your SQL. So for example, what we want to do is, from this data that is stored in S3, we want to first create a table within Snowflake, and we want to import all this data into this table, which we are going to call trips. Right? And then we are going to see if the data has been correctly imported. And then we are going to try to retrieve some business insights from this data. And finally, we are also going to see how you can enable visualization within Snowflake. Sounds good?
Yeah, that sounds good. So, is it just SQL that my team would have to, write this in, or are there any other like programming languages or like any other skills that they'll need to be aware of, like Python, R, and anything like that?
For the use case that I'm showing you, it is only SQL that your team needs to know. So
Okay.
you don't need to know anything else. Whereas, but there is a slight infrastructure part also, which is powering all this. So I'm going to show you that as well. And for that, you do need some infrastructure management skills.
Okay.
So
okay. Awesome.
That's all you need.
Great.
Right. So let's go right into the demo. So first of all, as you see here, I'm just going to create a table, which is called trips, right? So, and this table is going to have multiple columns, and some columns are start time, for example, the start time of the trip, stop time, the station where the trip was started, the station where the trip came to an end, user type, birth year, etc., right? So let's go ahead and let's create this table. So as you see, the table trips was successfully created. Now, since we have a file to import, so first of all, we have to create the file format, and the file format in which the data is present in S3 is CSV. So let's create the file format. That is the CSV format in which we want to ingest the data. Let's go ahead and do it. Right, so the file format is also created. Now, the next step is to copy data from S3 to the table trips, right? So behind the scenes, I've already created a stage called city by trips, and a stage is basically, kind of a staging place where the data is staged before being imported into the table trips from S3. So that is just detail, and we are not going to go into it, but it is necessary that a stage is created before data is imported from S3 into Snowflake. So let's just go ahead and create a stage here. While this is compiling, I'm also going to show you something else. So all this is being powered behind the scenes by something which we call virtual warehouses. And virtual warehouses are basically just compute instances, right? So if you go to admin here, and if you go to warehouses, these warehouses are actually compute instances, which you can start and stop. So the main advantage of Snowflake is that storage and compute is separated, which was a big concern back in the day with on-premise and first generation cloud data warehouses. So here, what you see is we have two kind of warehouses, right? So typically what companies do is that they have different kind of warehouses depending on the use of the warehouse, right? So for example, first of all, you see the data ingestion. So this warehouse is typically used by the teams who are trying to ingest data onto the platform. And secondly, you see the data analytics. So this warehouse is being used by the teams which are going to derive business insights from the data. That ensures that you can scale up these workloads without affecting the second or the third team, which is kind of working on the same data, right? For example, if you have a batch job which runs only once a day at 12 midnight, then you can have a very small warehouse for data ingestion. Whereas if you have several BAs who are working on the data throughout the day to get business insights from it, then you can have a larger data warehouse here. Is that clear? Did I make sense there?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So let's go back to the worksheet. Now, let's see that. So we see that all the data has been imported. So we see that there were a couple of files which were all CSVs, and all of this data has been loaded into the Snowflake platform, right? On the right-hand side, you also see some other details. For example, the query duration. So 59 seconds is what the query took. Now, let's go back to our data warehouse and let's see the data ingestion warehouse here and some more properties of it. So you see that there are multiple sizes here, right? So which range from X small to 6X large. And the amount of time this query takes is directly proportional to the size of the data warehouse that you have. So if I would have chosen a 6X, then maybe this query would have completed in maybe, 5, 6, 7 seconds, something like that. So, and one more thing which you can do here is you can auto resume and auto suspend. So if the data warehouse is not being used, then you are not going to use funds when the data warehouse is not being used in the platform, right? So you can auto suspend it, for example, after a few minutes. That's something which our customers do.
So is 6x the max size that we can work with? Like there's no No, we can go like 7 or 8 or something like that.
No, 6x is the max size you can do.
Okay.
And 6x is typically, totally sufficient for most of our enterprise customers. So I think later on we can do a few tests about, what kind of data do you have to bring onto the platform and see how much a typical query takes on it. But I think 6x is definitely going to be enough.
Okay, perfect.
Right. So let's go back to our query. So like we were saying, the query took about 59 seconds here. Now, just to double check that all the data has been imported successfully into the platform, let's just count the number of trips that are in the trips table, right? So let's just go and run this one. All right, so we see that there are about 61 million rows that have been imported from all of these CSVs, and that's quite a huge number, right? So we see that even with the X small one, we could load 61 million rows in about 59 seconds. So that's of course quite a good performance. And when you choose larger servers, this time is only going to decrease. Right. So now we have all the rows. Now let's see if our data analytics team can do some magic with it, right? So typically what a data team, which is going to derive business insights from the value would do is it is going to use its own warehouse. So as you see here, up till now, we were using the data ingestion one. Now we can use the DA one, right? So that means that when the data, when the BAs are running insights on the data, they do not take away capacity from the team that is trying to ingest data on the platform. So this is also what we were discussing previously, that totally separates the concerns between bringing the data onto the platform and deriving business insights from it. So let's run this query now, and let's see what we come up with. Data analytics. Right. So what we are doing here is we are categorizing all the rows into 4 different parts, right? So what we are saying is that if the birth year of the person who took a trip is between 1940 to 59, then we are going to classify him or her as senior citizen. If it is between 60 to 79, then it is Gen X, and so on. So what we are trying to do here is year-wise, we are trying to see the number of trips that these 4 categories took. So use case can be, we can check if or if not a particular category of users is using the platform or not. So that maybe we can target our, let's say, next marketing campaign towards the category who is not taking the most number of trips, right? So what we see here is right off the bat that in year 2018, senior citizens took around 400,000, Gen X took a bit more, Gen Y took a bit more, and Gen Z took 300K. What is really cool here is that at the click of a button, you can also visualize this data, right? So if I go here, and I see here right now that in 2018, and this is the senior citizen. So in 2018, they took around 400K. In 2017, almost 1 million, and so on. But I can also visualize the data from the rest of the categories alongside this data. So let's try to add a couple of columns here. So if I add Gen X, and if I add Gen Y, and if I add Gen Z, then you see top of red, you see the comparison between the number of trips which are taken by all of these particular age segments. So, and very interestingly, you see that Gen Z did not take as many trips as the other categories, right? So Gen Z was the lowest here, one of the lowest here, I think the lowest. So maybe the company needs to refine its messaging towards Gen Z so that, they can take a few more trips. So that is what I had to show you. I'm just curious, Mohammed, does this demo sound like something what you are looking for, or are there more needs that you have that we have not talked about?
Yeah, so we're really trying to focus on definitely the data analytics side. So I really liked what you showcased here. Also curious, we're looking into kind of getting with the times and whatnot. We know AI and machine learning are very, very popular right now. Um, are there any machine learning algorithms that come with Snowflake out of the box? I would definitely love to see that. Some of the machine learning capabilities that Snowflake has to offer.
Absolutely, absolutely. We can talk about that. So yes, machine learning is built into Snowflake. We do offer supervised, unsupervised, and semi-supervised machine learning. It is built into the platform, and maybe the next time we meet, I can show you Snowflake's machine learning capabilities. I'm just curious, do you already have an AI team, and are you already building your own stuff, and you want to port it over to the platform, or what are you doing right now with AI?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got we don't really have an AI team per se. We have some teams that work on, like, on the customer service side, like chat bots and whatnot. Some of that data is being powered through AI and whatnot, but most likely we'll be working with a consulting company, as they have the resources for AI and whatnot. So
Right, right.
yeah.
And in terms of skills for your data warehousing and your data engineering team, and your BAs as well, do they typically use SQL within your company, or do you use other tools or technologies or language to do all of this right now?
Yeah, so most, because we're on prem, right? So most of it's being done in SQL and SQL. So we've taken a look, in doing some stuff in, like, Python. I think Pandas is the framework or something. But most of the stuff is done in SQL. That's why we're looking at a consulting firm like Deloitte, or one of the other big ones like Accenture, right, to help us out with this project, because you know it's going to be cheaper in the long run to go with them versus training up our guys or hiring someone totally new, onboarding them, all that sort of stuff. So
Absolutely, absolutely
yeah.
agreed. Yeah, we do work a lot with all the consulting firms like Deloitte, Accenture, and everything. So yeah, definitely we can help out with that as well, for sure.
Awesome. Awesome.
Right. Right. So let me just summarize, because we have, kind of looked at a lot of stuff. So let me just stop my screen share. Right. So basically what we looked at was, we talked shortly about, the Snowflake platform, how it enables, the ease of data ingest, storage, and consumption. One of the most important things is that the compute part of the platform can be automatically scaled up or down as per your needs. And of course, we do offer everything on a single platform, like data science, visualization, and so on. One important thing to mention here is, which I think I did not yet, is that the Snowflake platform also connects natively to other data visualization tools like Power BI, Tableau, for example. So if your company is using a central data visualization tool, the Snowflake can definitely connect there as well. I'm curious, are you using a central data visualization tool right now?
Yeah, so we use we're a Microsoft shop, so we use Power BI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Great. And is there anything else that you would have liked to see in the demo, or any other questions that you might have that I can help you out with?
Yeah, I mean, just the machine learning stuff is really what we're interested in looking at. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Sounds good. So should we meet next week, so that I can give you a demo of Snowflake's machine learning capabilities as well? And
Yeah.
maybe you can bring along a solution architect from your side, who
Yeah.
is more specialized into that area, and we can talk.
Definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely. I'd love to schedule that. I'll get someone, one of my data engineers, and then maybe someone from the consulting firm to also join the call as well.
Perfect. Let's do that. Then I think the next steps are set. Thanks, Mohammed. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, and scene. Awesome, Pulkit. How do you think that went?
I think that went well. Typically, what you see is that, when you give a demo to a stakeholder, they are typically a little bit more senior, if you are especially talking with enterprises. And then you kind of give them an overview of the whole platform, and you kind of set up the next steps within the call itself. And the next steps are typically bringing along a solutions engineer or a solutions, or, anybody from the technical team that knows a little bit more in detail about what's going on in the company. So then you can talk to them on a technical side as well.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think some of my call outs were I like that you did the slides. It's always good to kind of show the value prop. I liked how you used data visualization. You didn't have too many bullet points on there that you were reading off of and whatnot, but you were able to show the value from all aspects of, what is Snowflake? Why is it better than, cloud, on-prem, data lakes, whatnot, right? It's an all-in-one solution. You can choose which cloud you want. You're able to pitch that value really well. And then even when I was asking questions, right, as the stakeholder, anytime I asked questions, you were able to answer them very quickly. You weren't able to dig yourself in that rabbit hole, as we like to say in the solutions world, just getting lost in questions. You're able to table things, say, hey, let's put that in the parking lot. Let's meet next week and talk about that, right? Being cognizant of time and whatnot. I do want to call out, though, that some of the stuff like scheduling the next follow-up call and stuff, usually that's not handled by the solutions person. This is for the viewers at home, right? So usually your account executive, account manager will be the one who's handling that. But it's good that you still called that out, right? But yeah, just wanted to make that call out. One thing that I would say is that, and sometimes I find myself guilty of doing that, when you're sharing your screen, especially when you're sharing something on a website, hide that bookmark tab, because sometimes
Absolutely.
you get lost and you start looking at what does this guy have as
Yeah.
but yeah, that's try to make the screen on as full, even though the bookmark tab is like this small.
Mhm.
It's always kind of like the first thing that people might end up looking at.
Totally agreed. Totally
Yeah.
agreed.
But I think, I can tell you definitely did your dry runs, kind of walk through it beforehand, and you kind of knew what the flow was. One last thing I wanted to call out was I thought you did a really good job when you were compiling the table and whatnot. Instead of just sitting there, because it took 59 seconds for that table to load, right? You're like, hey, let's take a look at, how this is running on the back end, instead of just sitting there in awkward silence, waiting for it to load. That's something that I do too, because I know that sometimes this is software, either it's going to break or it's either it's going to break or I know it's going to take a while. So let me show you this in the meantime while this is loading. That was phenomenal. Loved it. But
Thanks, Mohammed. Thanks, Tan.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much, Pulkit. And for all the viewers who are watching at home, make sure to give this video a like, comment down what you liked about it, what you learned, whatnot. Make sure to share this and subscribe to the channel.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below to let us know that this video was valuable for you. And of course, check out hundreds more videos just like this at tryexponent.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your upcoming interview.